All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today I have Asher Thomas with me, and Asher is up and coming in the world of all music that is heavy and getting people their due diligence and their promotion. So Asher, thank you so much for coming and talking to me a little bit today.
Thanks for talking with me and answering our email. Appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, 100%. So you are putting on the Tough Luck Festival. So
hmm
would you mind telling the audience a little bit about that and what that consists of for those who have absolutely no idea what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tough Luck Fest, this is the first year we're doing it. It is a Boston-based 2-day alternative music festival. That's kind of what we've been saying, just to best describe it. So day one is like alternative rock. It's a little bit softer than day two. So it's like there's gonna be pop punk bands, there's emo bands, whatever they want to categorize it as. And then day two is metal and hardcore, and it's a much more like intense, fast-paced day. And yeah, like I said, this is our first year doing something like this, but we're working with Brighton Music Hall and Crossroads Presents. Um, it's a 500 capacity room, so we're doing our best to fill it. And yeah, we have some really cool sponsors, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. But uh, yeah, just trying to keep alternative and intense music alive in the Boston scene because it has such a history here. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we were talking a little bit before we started here, and I mentioned how my dad used to be in hardcore bands, and it was a massive scene in Massachusetts and the South Shore primarily, and all the way up into Boston and north and stuff. So, back in the day, you couldn't, as they say, you couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting
yeah.
a hardcore show or something heavy. And today, that from an outsider perspective, you could see that maybe that's not the case, but what you were saying that it's a little bit more poppin' than people
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, it's definitely alive. I mean, it's there's a lot of it that's underground per se. But I mean, with venues, I know we were talking a little bit about this, like with venues like the Palladium in Worcester and I mean, in Boston, Paradise Rock Club still really supports that. And the house show scene here was insane. And there's been venues in general still in the New England area are supporting, I guess, like the metal and hardcore scenes. And there are so many bands. It's still such a tight-knit community. I feel like I see bands popping up all the time, like new faces. And yeah, it's cool because it's like a genre that people are going to come out to a show just to come out to a show and experience that kind of thing without even knowing the bands. Um, so it's more so, yeah, I feel like that's like kind of what hardcore and like metal has always been about. It's just like I like this genre, maybe I'll like this show. I've never seen something like this before, so maybe I'll go and check it out.
Yeah, the thing I would liken it to is horror movies, where people who love
Yeah.
horror movies, they'll
Mhm.
go see it no matter what it's about or who made it or who's starring in it. It's like they love the genre and the electricity of the emotions that comes with it. And so I think that is exactly what that kind of music
Yeah.
exhibits. So how long has this been in the making, this Tough Luck Festival?
Yeah. So Tough Luck was initially an idea probably I'd say early last year. Um, I've done a bunch of shows in my past, like through my college career onward. My first show I ever did was a show in my basement at home in Easton. My parents were gracious enough to let us do it and just had a bunch of friends from high school, which was cool. Um, but Tough Luck came about because I was doing stuff with, like I mentioned earlier, the Worcester Palladium, and we had some very successful shows. We ran a benefit show for mental health that did really well, and people showed up. Absolutely, like a ton of people showed up, and people that just heard about the show and wanted to support. So I live in Boston now, and I thought Boston needed something like that, especially with it being such a more centralized city, and with there being so many colleges around. Um, so yeah, to answer your question, back in I think May, we really started like, I started talking about the idea and with some bands I work with two bands on the festival directly. On day one, there's a band called Ring Pop, and they're like a pop punk alternative rock band. And then day two, there's a band called Slamwich. And they're like not everyone's gonna know what this means, but like OG MySpace deathcore kind of sound. And they kick ass.
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole goal is to bring bands that are used to playing these a lot of the time like DIY shows and shows that are, you know, very popularized, but still in the underground somewhat, but in like a more realistic or not realistic, but like a venue with lights and sound and just like bringing that to a bigger stage and just, having their sound be seen and heard and yeah.
It's super dope that you're giving these people a platform when, it's not always super accessible for bands like that in today's music world landscape where, there's a lot more a lot more stuff in the mainstream that is, I guess, to a casual audience like easier to listen to, maybe you could call it. But no, it's super awesome. So I have to ask, uh, how did you come up with the name? And would
Yeah,
you mind talking a little bit about your friends who you're putting this together with?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tough Luck comes from the artist management group name that I started in college called Evil Eye Artists. Evil Eye is like a symbol of luck and it kind of is connected. So with that name being connected, we wanted obviously to somehow bring with the conceptualization of this like festival showcase type thing, we wanted to create a name that kind of not only relates back to Evil Eye, but is something that is in the middle ground of some, the heavier day and the more middle ground day, or not the middle ground, the more like um alternative rock day based day of the fest.
Sure.
Um, Tough luck. It doesn't mean anything per se, but it just is like, you hear it sometimes. It's a phrase. It's just tough luck, kid, like tough luck, and it's just something that I feel like we hear growing up, and I feel like it's kind of a phrase that a lot of people, not just in an alternative lifestyle here, but just, it's something that we all can relate to, and doesn't necessarily mean anything, but we definitely play on the idea of like luck and kind of, symbolizing that in a lot of different ways. Um,
To me, it almost feels like, it's symbolic of what maybe some of these artists have been told before, and
Absolutely.
that now it's coming back around to where like their music is tough, and it's like they're getting their shot at
Yeah.
performing it. Maybe I don't know.
Absolutely.
That's just where I'm coming
Oh,
from.
and that's fantastic because I feel like
Yeah,
it means so much. It can mean so much to different people. Um,
yeah,
and I mean, it really relates back to the name Evil Eye, with again like it being like a symbol of luck per se. With Evil Eye having the idea behind it that like the artists we work with, we want their sound to be seen, which is the whole eye analogy
yeah.
thing. But it's like the idea of like, okay, like let's bring these artists from the background to the forefront into a mainstream in a way that anyone can, go to a show like I was talking to you earlier about and just experience it either for the first time or like we've done shows in the past with like other venues where kids have come up to us and said like this was my first show and it was like the most unreal experience or I never think I thought I'd like something like this and it's a whole new world for a lot of people that people start to get into and yeah.
That's so awesome, considering uh, the opportunity that you have to introduce people to this world, right? And like how much kind of responsibility can go into that, but at the same time, like how much joy that can
Mhm.
bring, when you're so passionate about bringing an eye to these artists. So it's super, super dope. Um, what would you say you're most excited for about this weekend?
uh as corny as it might sound to some people, I'm just excited to see everybody come together and just like all in a centralized place. Um, like I said earlier, the two bands I work with primarily that are on this show they're very different in sounds, but also like I know that they're going to each other's days and I know that they'll be supporting one another and also loving what they hear, which is so cool. Um, there are people that we're working with, to some of the sponsors we're working with that are people in the greater music scene. Like we're working with a printing company called Together Press, which they're an independent printing company. They're doing all our merch. Um, they're in the music scene. Their company owner, he um, is, or they're just about, like they're an artist themselves and they care so much about the music scene as a whole. And then another sponsor where we work with, or we're working with for the fest, Extreme Vocal Institute. Um, their company is all about, bringing the harshness of like, like screaming and metal to a more accessible audience, and also like teaching people that are interested in that, and like really educating anyone that's interested in that sort of thing. And then we're partnering with the Record Co. They're the last sponsor that we partnered with, and they're, Boston's recording studios and Boston's practice room space. So it's all about like connecting these different things that are relating back to the music industry um, in one centralized place, and just having everybody kind of come together, and people that are used to the genre or used to like a show like that, or people that are seeing it for the first time, and or bringing a friend that has never seen something like that. So yeah,
That's so sick. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think it's so cool what you're doing and the opportunities that you're giving these people. And I really hope that moving forward, this thing continues to grow and things like, and I hope that this weekend goes absolutely fantastically. Um,
appreciate it.
yeah, of course. So let's get back into that management company a little bit. What would you
Sure.
say was the origin story of that, and how did that translate to you? Starting this festival.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so when I got to school, it's so complicated, but also not. When I got to school, I bought a camera. Um, and a big part of being in like a now very music-based place like Alston and Brighton is there are just, like I said earlier, there are so many like DIY shows and so many like small independent shows. And going to a school that's based around music, all your friends are playing music all the time. So I wanted to be somebody that could capture bands and record bands. And I started taking photos of my friends' shows and videos. And that led more into like, oh, like this leads into promotion, and this leads to like bands being seen and having like kind of an eye on them. Um, so then I was like, you know what? Like, one of that band Ring Pop I mentioned earlier, they're my roommates and they have been since freshman year. And I was like, let's start working together and let's see how big we can make this band. And it really started with them and just working with them in different ways and going to their shows, booking their shows, recording their shows, just anything that's going to get their name out there. They did a 20+ day summer tour that we booked ourselves and promoted ourselves. Went to Chicago, went to Nashville, just all over the place, and it was a blast, and it was exactly like what we thought touring would be like. So yeah, and that's kind of beginning to expand, and we people that are working with Tough Luck, Olivia Monarch and Billy Bentel, they're the two other minds behind this festival. I absolutely want to give them credit. Um, After I put the festival together, I brought them on, and because they were offering to help so much, and um, they have their strengths in different ways that could never. They're just amazing at promotion and PR and just organization in different ways, and they're people that also now work with me at the management group, and we all have the same mindset, and we're all in the same scene of music and care about the same things. So just yeah, it's kind of where we're at now. So
Yeah, the opportunity to meet some people along the way who share those same passions as you and grow it is really what it's all about. I mean,
absolutely.
um, so let's talk. So what when you went to Berkeley, correct? And so what was your major there? What did you study?
Mhm. So I did professional music. It's the kind of pick your own major, but there are focuses. So with me, I focused on music business and artist management.
Mhm.
Um,
Lines up pretty perfectly.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I initially went for something completely different, but after being at school for a little bit, I was like, this is just like, I want to be doing this and I want to be working with bands. So I started doing that, and I've really loved it ever since.
That's dope. So let's rewind just a little bit more to your days at OA.
Yeah.
So how would you say that your Oliver Ames experience influenced where the direction your passions went whatsoever? Were you into something completely different? And do you think that the Easton Public Schools experience led to any of this happening in general?
Yeah. I think it's like a push and pull because Oliver Ames has like it did when I was there. It had a really great music department and there were so many things that you could do with music. Like I know the musical at Oliver Ames was unreal. I went to that when I was in I worked for the tech crew and I was really interested in that and just seeing how things are put together. Um But part of it is that Oliver Ames and being in high school, it doesn't, and this is so common, it doesn't have a scene like a big city would. It's just it's a high school, so it's not going to have something like that. But the teachers and a lot of the teachers I had, being in high school, did have a lot of either musical background or a lot of musical interest, and a lot of that, especially care of the arts, really like I think molded this you know, passion for it in a way. Um, and getting out of Oliver Ames and seeing like, oh wow, there are other people that really like the same kind of music and want to, there's such a nightlife for music in Boston more directly. Definitely is like it was like an awakening. But being in high school and having the specific people that do and did really care about the same kind of music or same kind of art form, that definitely helped. Like a professor or not a professor, a teacher I had. His name was Mr. Goldberg. He just me and him would talk about music all the time, and I think about him a lot just because of how much he cared about music, but also just his passion in teaching. Um, but you can see like music is something that we all have in common. Like genuinely, most people just care about music one way or another. Um, so yeah, just having certain people at Oliver Ames that had a passion for that kind of thing was the start of it, I think.
That's dope. Shout out to Mr. Goldberg. When it comes to yourself and playing music, do you want to mention where you are in that space and anything that might be going on? I guess besides the festival, of course, we'll get a little bit more into that. But just when it comes to your personal playing, and can the people of Easton expect you to be playing at the Oaks Ames Hall or the Queesa Garden next summer?
Maybe
Blow the roof off the hall.
maybe not those locations, but I mean, Boston's only so far, and I do vocals in a band, a hardcore project that we've worked with a lot of the bands that are performing at this festival. Um, And the bands I work with and the band that I'm in, we're playing all the time. We're going on an October tour. My band, where we're going down to Virginia, so we're playing all the states through and through. And then it's been Ring Pop, which is playing day one. They're doing an October tour also, hitting like DC and the same kind of thing. And Slamwich, this band I mentioned earlier from Florida or from Boston, they're going down to Florida. Um, we're touring with them in January, going to like Iowa and stuff like that. So all over the place. But yeah, there's we're always announcing stuff and always just trying to make things bigger and better and just trying to push this music in a
Yeah.
front. So
Yeah, it seems like promotion of not only your band, but for the most part, you're a very humble guy. But also, when you look at like the other your friends and the bands that your management company um, presides over, like it's really awesome how you're looking out for them and just trying to grow the genre. It's super awesome. Um, in a nutshell, why should people come to Tough Luck Fest, or why should it at least be on their radars?
yeah. So if you're a fan of the music, this is absolutely the show to go to because it's genuinely, I think, the best of like the New England area that are growing. These artists that are really, 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 really making a name for themselves and um, just care about what they do so much and are really doing awesome things each and every day. Um, if you're not into it, this is also the place to be for the exact same reason because it's going to be the perfect gateway into something like this, and it's something that you will think about probably for the rest of your life in a sense of like I went to this, like, you'll be telling if you're my age, you'll be telling your kids, like, I went to a show that was, whether this is going to be history or not. But in a sense of just saying, like, I was at this crazy show in Boston that sounded great, looked great, and all the artists performed, in a sense I could never imagine. Um, and we're just, like, professionalism is our thing, in a sense of, like, we're making sure that everything looks great. We have backing videos for all the bands, so all the bands will have, their name's going to be right up there and projected behind them, and you'll know
Sick.
exactly what you're watching if you can read their logo. And yeah, we have festival merch. All the bands will have merch. It's
Good.
going to be a great place to meet people, see something that you may be familiar with, or not, and just a great experience all around. So yeah.
That's super dope, man. So, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me a little bit today. Is there anything else that you want to maybe talk about? If there's anything that we kind of breezed through a little bit and you want to expand upon, I know it's a little bit hard to come up with it on the fly, but if there's anything,
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. I mean, this was really cool. I mean, we've done like a few talking thing, like we've talked to a few people, but I haven't talked to anyone one-on-one about really in depth about what this is, and I could tell you care, so I really appreciate that. Um, and just want to iron in like the people that have really helped with this. So thank you, Olivia, and thank you, Billy. They're really, like, our anchor, and really helped us put this whole thing together, and making it really, like, genuinely couldn't have done it without them.
Mhm.
Hopefully it's, a thing that continues, and we have plans to already start working on next year, and just make it bigger and bigger, and make it a festival where we have vendors, and like more and more sponsors, and just more and more bands, and giving more people like a platform. Um, the website's up now. It's toughluckfest.com. You can also look up evileyeartist.com, which is where you can see about the artists that we work with directly. Um, I'm super chronically on Instagram because it's just a platform for promotion. So my Instagram is Asher underscore Thomas underscore. Um, I mostly just post about music shit there. So if anyone's interested, come check it out. And if anyone has questions, I'm learning about the music industry as I go. So happy to talk to whoever. So
That's awesome, man. Yeah, absolutely. The opportunity to network. I mean, it's for those who are interested, it's right here, it's in front of you. So, Asher, thank you so much for talking today, my man. I hope that the festival goes absolutely awesome and good luck with everything in the future. And I'm sure maybe we can hop on one of these before next year's.
yeah, absolutely, I would love it.
Cool. Awesome. All right, man. Thank you so much.